you have to go through a consumer advice show to get something that you were promised 7 months ago.
Well, isn't it just, and you tried so hard and phoned every month. And
every single month to phone to pay, and they didn't want to take the proper payment. They wanted more. Oh my goodness, that is fantastic.
It was a very quick turnaround, I have to say.
It was extremely quick.
So that's great, isn't it? They're going to waive the outstanding balance, that's £648, some of those that are, you should have owed and some that were wrong, and then the credit of £110 while they sort it out, and then the discount for the future. That'll fairly help.
That is brilliant. Oh my goodness, thank you so much.
And I gather you phoned us because your parents told you to. Your mum, was it?
Actually, Mummy and Daddy, Mummy's been telling me for months to phone, and I was sort of like, they said it's sorted out this month, Mummy, it's okay. And then the next month, no, Daddy, it's okay, they said it's sorted out this month. But after 7 months, I sort of took their advice. I should have done it a long time ago, shouldn't I?
Oh, well, you should. Your mum and dad are always right.
Your parents are always right. That is an important lesson in all of this. Your parents are always right.
Well, certainly we're impressed by the Vodafone coming back so quickly and sorting it so quickly, at least when we got in touch. So I hope it works out. Let us know how the phone goes and if the next bill comes in as accurate.
I will. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, Lisa, struggling. If you've been struggling for weeks or months to get a company to listen to you, get in touch. You know the numbers, 30 30 80 55 55, text 81771, or indeed email oib@bbc.co.uk. And when your mummy tells you to ring on your behalf, you just ring. Now, this week, a Coleraine woman won a landmark case over her late partner's pension. You probably heard about it in the news. Denise Brewster went to the Supreme Court to challenge the ruling that she was not automatically entitled to a survivor's pension, as she would have been if they'd been married. Well, Trish Lyons of the CAB in Belfast is with me. The implications, Trish, of this decision, will millions of other cohabitees benefit from this ruling, do you think? Of course, there's two different types of pensions, as the work and the state, but what are you hearing and seeing in the CAB?
Well, we hope that this will be brought forward and all cohabitees will ensure that they are covered by a survivor's pension from now on.
And will it have implications for benefits, I wonder?
Well, there is a court case running at the minute. It's due before the Supreme Court later this year in relation to widowed parents' allowance. Now, it was brought by a client of Help of Citizens Advice, and she, as a cohabitee, when her partner died, was not entitled to the widowed parents' allowance, and that has been brought. It first of all went to the High Court, and she won. But then it went to the Court of Appeal and they lost, so it's now going to the Supreme Court sometime this year. And the reason we're so interested in this is because it's to do with the children. We feel it's discrimination against the children. The children have no say in whether their parents were married or not, so therefore we feel that the widowed parents' allowance should be available whether you're married in a civil partnership or cohabiting.
So another one to keep an eye on, because she's going the same route as Denise Brewster did. We asked the Department for Communities about these possible implications. The Department says it notes the recent Supreme Court judgment on entitlement to pension benefit and is giving full consideration to the judgment and its potential effect on bereavement benefits. Also with me this morning, Adrian Huston, tax expert. Adrian, are there tax implications to all of this?
Well, there are no immediate tax implications because obviously the Supreme Court ruling was on a specific point in relation to a pension. But there's a massive potential carry across here if someone were to take this, for instance, to the Supreme Court, or if, God forbid, the government were to decide to apply the Supreme Court ruling to tax and inheritance tax, because we've got various situations where being married or in a civil partnership is a massive issue of potentially great benefit to you in terms of things like inheritance tax, where you can pass all of your assets, no matter how much you're worth, to your spouse or civil partner without any tax liabilities and inheritance tax. That is not available to cohabiting couples. And so if we find the situation where that was suddenly going to be potentially arguable, that a cohabiting couple, after one dies, the other one can just get the money free of inheritance tax, then it would open up a complete hornet's nest of how do we establish that was a cohabiting couple? How long have they been together? Do we know they really wanted this to happen? What did the dead person say before they died? It's just horrendous. I mean, the case that went to the Supreme Court involved a couple that had just got engaged and they'd had a conversation about pensions.
Although they'd been together for 10 years and had children, yes.
Yes, that's right. We need to make sure that if there's any change to tax, that there's absolute clarity on how you will define someone who can benefit from the same tax arrangements that apply to married couples and cohabiting couples. And in my view, it shouldn't be changed, because it would be impossible to police.
Adrian, I'll come back to you later on the programme. We're going to try and get this one in just before the news, because Liam rang in on your behalf because he's been without his special phone for months, and not only is the phone special, it talks to him, which is a great help because Liam's blind. It's an expensive phone too, and Liam asked our phone-in operators, he said, Linda, can you help out? So I rang him.
I'm registered blind.
So you need a special phone?
Oh yes, I do, surely, yep.
So what does this special phone do?
Well, if I got a text, that can read the text out to me.
So it's a talking phone?
A talking phone, yes.
And not cheap either, over £443?
£443, yes.
So you ordered this through the RNIB, through online or on a catalogue?
Online, yes.
Last October?
October, yep, we're around that area time,
And how long before it broke down?
December.
So what happened? Did they ask you to send it back?
On the 8th of December, I sent it back again. A courier came here and left it at the door. That's before Christmas, and they said, well, ring in a week and we should have it sorted, with that. But we did ring them every week and on and there's nothing done about it,
And then they told you hadn't sent the charger?
Yes, that's correct, sorry.
And the earpiece?
I hadn't sent the charger, nor the earphones.
Mm-hmm.
So I sent them back on around the 10th of December, 7th, 10th of December.
So all that time you've been waiting for this phone, and now you tell me it's arrived back and it's still not fixed.
It's not fixed.
What's actually wrong with it?
The screen is cracked, but that wasn't. They just sent it back and said it couldn't be fixed.
And was it like that when you sent it back?
I wouldn't be too sure now, to be honest, whether that was the case or not, but the phone wasn't going. That's
formal written warnings. Sport, and there's even more uncertainty over the manager's position at Rangers this morning. The club say they've accepted the resignations of boss Mark Warburton, his assistant David Weir and head of recruitment Frank McParland. However, Warburton has told the BBC he has not stood down and that he's consulting his legal team. And in the second weekend of the Six Nations, Ireland will look to put their opening Six Nations defeat to Scotland behind them when they travel to Italy this afternoon. Joe Schmidt's side have never lost their first two games of a Six Nations campaign. And we'll have all the coverage of the Ireland-Italy match on Radio Ulster from 2 o'clock. The weather now with Angie Phillips.
A cold, frosty start, but a bright one with mainly light winds. The breeze will gradually pick up and will bring more cloud during the afternoon. Perhaps the odd wintry shower, more so for parts of County Down. Otherwise, it's mainly dry, but feeling very cold in the wind with highs of 5 or 6 Celsius. Staying windy and cold tonight with some frost. A few wintry showers, especially for the eastern counties, but many places staying dry.
BBC News.
BBC Radio Ulster. Travel News. Icy conditions are lingering in some places this morning, so take extra care on the roads. As a result, the planned roadworks for the A57 Ballyrobin Road have been postponed until further notice. That's the main road to Belfast International Airport through Templepatrick. And looking at flights at Belfast International Airport, this morning's EasyJet flight from Amsterdam has been delayed to 11 o'clock, while at the George Best Belfast City Airport, Flybe's 10:35 arrival from London City has now been cancelled. Anne Jordan reporting. Travel news on BBC Radio Ulster.
Stories in sound, where documentaries come to life. The sport of road bowling, known in County Armagh as throwing bullets, is a source of inspiration.
I'm Marty Cullen and I want to write a song for the bullet-throwing heroes of Armagh.
Bullets was flying past your feet. You nearly would have got hit by one in the pub.
A song that bears the dort, grit and spit of a game that sparks iron and tar.
Here, a left bonus score.
A song for the men that walk the roads.
That's in Split the Sap, the next in our Stories in Sound series, Sunday at 12:30 and afterwards at bbc.co.uk/Radio Ulster.
I'm so looking forward to that. Marty works with us, and I didn't know he was an All-Ireland champion at road bowls. He's very keen anyway. And by the way, if you want to look at the Radio Ulster Facebook page, as I did yesterday, there's a great little video clip of Marty full in action. And tomorrow you can hear the yarns and the tales and the legends. And apparently he's written a song as well. He's very musical, as well. He's got a great voice. Anyway, enough about your programme, Martin. That's Stories in Sound tomorrow at 12:30 and repeated on Thursday evening as well at 7:30. But welcome back to On Your Behalf. yourself. I'm Linda McAauley. We've been talking about pensions, benefits and bereavement payments. And with me in the studio, Trish Lyons of Belfast CAB, and also joining me, Adrian Huston, our tax expert. And if you have a question, you know the number, 030 30 80 55 55, or text 81771. Now, talking tax, if we must, of course, Colette has missed the deadline for online self-assessment tax returns. You knew it was the 31st of January if you had to do it. And it wasn't even her own return, because she helps both her mother and father, who are in their 80s. And she's done this for years. No problem.
About 6 years, 7 years online. No problem at all. Always managed to get it done properly and on time.
So what went wrong this year?
Nothing went wrong with my father's. It was when I went to do my mother's. There's an additional question that they're asking this year, which is the credit check question.
What do you have to put in?
Well, when it asked my father's, it asked that he have a valid UK passport, which he doesn't have any passport, so we were able to put no. I was able then to finish his off. But when it came to my mother's, I put no because she has got an Irish European passport. It then went on to further questions, and one of the questions was, have you opened a current bank account in the last 0 to 2, 3 to 5, or more than that years? So I put down no, that she hadn't. It then said that I had failed to pass the test and wait another 24 hours.
So in other words, you were pretty much up to the deadline, and when you wait another 24 hours, you know that the fines are going to start coming out.
So this had happened a couple of times. This was, when I had emailed you, this was the second time that had knocked me out, because I did the second time put in that she had a passport, but then it wouldn't accept the fact that it was an Irish passport, because the number system is different with it.
They've got letters at the beginning or something, have they?
2 letters at the beginning. Yeah. So it didn't recognise that.
So you just couldn't really tick the boxes they wanted you to tick?
No, and it's because I think it is because she had a passport. They didn't recognise the number.
So now here we are 2 days later, and as the days go on ticking down, your mum must be a bit concerned about getting not only the fines, but obviously worried about not getting a return in time, because she's in her 80s, isn't she?
She is, and she did ring this morning. But she is very good about it, and I don't think she's losing too much sleep about it, because she knows that it will get sorted.
But at a price. I mean, we're going to have £100 penalties.
There's going to be a £100 fine. And again, this is the first year that they have done this system. Prior to that, they would have taken your bank account number or some information that they had on you to verify your identity, like what bank account did your pension be paid into, or different things like that. So this is new this year, and we obviously just didn't have the right answers.
Well, what went wrong? We actually don't know, because 10 days later HMRC still hasn't given us an answer, though we will keep asking. But perhaps tax expert Adrian Huston is with me, can help. Adrian, what should happen when you're doing your self-assessment return online to prove your identity?
Well, normally, Linda, if you've done it previously, normally you'll simply be entering your user ID and your password. And I know the government is clamping down on identity theft, and therefore encouraging people to produce sort of additional information. It may be that Colette perhaps didn't have the correct user ID or password and had then clicked,
Is it new this year? Is there a new system?
There's a new system called Government Verify, which came in from April last year, and it's been rolled out since last Christmas, and it involves the government actually subcontracting to outside firms the ability to verify your identity, and then that gives you a single login to access all sorts of government services, and so that company doesn't know what services you're logging into, and equally those services, whichever government branch you're dealing with, they don't know what information you gave to that company, like passport number or whatever. So it may be that Colette has maybe fallen foul of mistyping the user ID or password and having to get a reminder.
Of course, it was the first time she maybe used it, if it's being rolled in since
well,
last
yes,
year.
exactly.
Yeah.
So she had clearly successfully logged in online in the past, and thus far I haven't heard of a person who correctly typed in user ID and password and was then asked for this further identity information such as passport, etc.
But if it works, is it a good system? Are you finding it useful, workable?
It's an absolutely fantastic system, and I would encourage all your listeners to sign up, for example, for their personal tax account. If they Google personal tax account HMRC, they'll be able to find out how to do this. It takes about 20 minutes. And unlike signing up to file your self-assessment online, etc., where you had to get a code posted to you, this is something that within 20 minutes you will be looking at your personal tax account. Assuming you have access to some of the easier types of ID, like a passport, a driving licence, maybe a payslip or a P60. And if you don't have those sorts of things, you can also get to it through having something like a mobile phone contract or a credit card. So there are various ways that this identity service verifies you, and then that gives you a login and you can see really useful stuff. I mean, to give you the simplest example, my wife was at the hairdresser the other day, and the hairdresser's junior was talking about logging into her personal tax account and how she was able to see the track record of her pay slips. This information is all available to you online, what your employer has filed as to what they paid you, the tax, the national insurance.
So equally, you could spot a mistake.
Yes, exactly. You can spot a mistake, or you can say, okay, well, I can see everything's working great in my current employer, but that last employer, how come there's nothing for my last month's pay? What's going on here? And you can address something because, these things have implications all down the line for your state pension and everything. And you can even use this system to check how many years national insurance the revenue thinks you have.
I just have a slight fear. Everything's in one computer. Maybe I'm being a bit cynical in this.
Well, that's why they have this verification thing. They also have extra security so that they will text a code to your mobile phone if you're trying to log in. And you can even have it to your landline. If you don't have a mobile, you can have your landline. And what happens is they will say, right, you're trying to log in. We're now going to text your mobile phone or
sending fake emails asking you to create a government gateway account. We're sending this email to announce that after the last annual calculation of your fiscal activity, we've determined you are eligible to receive a tax return. In order to receive your tax return, you need to, a refund, you need to create a government gateway account, and then asks you for your personal banking details. Yep. So you're saying, oh, this is all wonderful, and there's the scammers have suddenly kind of cottoned on, and they're using a different kind of thing, but with the same sort of words.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, the good thing is a lot of these guys are very, very bad with their English.
Yes.
And you sometimes spot Let's assume that they get clever or they use spell checks and they get better at that. The key thing is, who's doing the driving here? Have you gone into Google, searched for login personal tax account, HMRC? Have you done that?
They came
and
to
chosen
you.
The link, or have they come to you?
And
if
HMRC
they email you
says,
or text you, assume it's a scam.
Yes,
Revenue
HMRC agrees with you. They say we never email any of our customers, and they're aware of this scam, and they're working to reduce this kind of malware, but they do not email anyone. So you're quite right, Adrian. You do need to be careful, though, but you do need to be careful. Adrian, thanks for that. Stay with me, because they say if you can spot a scam, you can stop a scam, but there are still so many people in Northern Ireland who are sending money to criminals. It's estimated that scams cost consumers between £5 and £10 billion a year. And according to Louise Baxter, she's head of the National Trading Standards Scam Team, and she was here this week. She says it's just the tip of the iceberg. And Beverly Burns of the Northern Ireland Trading Standards told me why she thinks people fall victim to these crimes.
Everybody's just living in hope, Linda, that, that letter which is telling them that they've won a large large sum of money or the phone call telling them that they've made a wonderful investment. They want that to be true.
And they're not stupid people.
They're not stupid people, but they're just living in hope that they're going to get a return on their money.
Louise Baxter, head of the National Trading Standards Scam Team. Would it not be better to try and go through the postal system to alert the banks to lots of money going out? Is there not a source way of doing this to stop criminals? Because they're criminals.
Yep, we are doing that. We're working on both of it. So we work on first identifying the victims, but we also then track where the victim's money's going, and we look at stopping it at source. So we're working with our foreign counterparts to try and stop the scams at their source. We're also working with the mail providers to try and stop the post from actually getting into the mail systems.
Well, you say working, and there's our Spotlight programme recently, Beverly, following the money, if you remember, Chris Moore, and they followed the money, and you talked about that too, the money going through the Netherlands. But when I watched the programme, America banned that company from using the postal system. Surely there's more to be done in a way that doesn't just have to spread awareness or appeal to people who are vulnerable. Surely it's the actual companies, the banks, you see all those money going in and out of accounts. Surely Trading Standards with its enforcement powers could do more.
If we had more resource, we could definitely do more. What we currently do at the moment is we're trying to use other partners to be able to take some of the enforcement work for us and to be able to investigate those companies. Problem is, they're all abroad, so you've got to have resource to be able to chuck into that to actually find out where it's coming from.
It's coming from abroad, but it's going through our postal system.
Yes, it is, but it's identifying it in the postal system is one of the difficulties. But what we're doing at the moment is trying to identify it and stop it actually getting into the postal system before it gets there. So then we're not asking victims to decide and differentiate between scams and genuine mail, because they're not going to receive the scam mail. But there's definitely more that can be done.
You talked about people, and you talked about all the different scams, and we've talked about romance scams and phone scams and computer scams. Everything's a scam. Even that word scam, though, makes it sound a little bit naughty. It's crime. It's organised crime, and yet are we treating it seriously enough?
Yes, well, we personally are treating it very, very seriously. At the end of the day, we care about the scam victims out there. We want to do our best and providing one-to-one advice to them.
And it's not just the billions of pounds that's lost. It's actually, if people are spending all their money on scams, and then potentially that means that they lose all their confidence and ability to live alone, who's paying to support them if they don't have any finances left because they've spent it all on scams? We talk about the word scams, and just to bring back to that point, it is fraud, but the general public, we find, actually understand what the word scams means. Fraud is such a broad term that it doesn't resonate with people that they've been defrauded rather than scammed.
A bit like joyriders and criminal driving, it all sounds a little bit naughty and fun.
A bit Del Boy, to be fair, doesn't it? So what we're trying to do is change the perception of the word scam so that people recognise that if they're scammed, it is a crime, it is fraud, and to actually give that word a bit more gravitas than it currently has.
Money has to go through banks. So we talked about it going through the mail. It has to go through banks. It has to go into a bank account. And we know if you try to open a bank account, it's quite difficult to get all your ID together and yet there are banks that the money's going through so many accounts and yet seemingly can't be stopped. Why can't it be stopped?
Well, it is stopped sometimes. There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes in working with financial institutions and banks to try and stop the money and to try and trace where the money is actually ending up. We did a case with where we were working with the Americans and again with the US Treasury, where it was a payment processor that was actually shut down, and we worked in partnership with lots of financial institutions to do that.
So many people will say to me, well, how did they get my number? How did they get my address? So much information is out there floating.
Yeah, and it's very easy. You just have to untick a box or not tick a box, and actually then you've given your permission for your details to be sold. But actually, criminals don't care about that. They'll sell it regardless. So actually, you have to do what we can to protect ourselves, as in don't share too much and make sure we opt out if we don't want our details to be sold. But criminals are going to share that information. So more needs to be done to also tackle the data brokers as well. That actually, where the suckers lists actually originate.
And today is to sort of widen the ripple effect, to let people in all these different organisations maybe spread the word to make people aware if you can't stop it at the sources that we've been talking about.
Yeah, today's around the Friends Against Scams campaign, which is about building community resilience. There's not enough money in local authorities or local government to actually go out and do all the education messages that we would like to do. So actually what Friends Against Scams is about is driving it back to communities and giving them those messages so they can take that back to the people that live locally to them and twitch their curtains and talk to them about scams.
I heard one phrase that really resonated with me. If you can spot a scam, you can stop a scam. Yeah. But can you?
Well, you can, yeah, because actually if you can talk to your neighbour, if you can talk to your neighbour and say to your neighbour, are you receiving letters like this? I've had one like this today. And they all of a sudden go, well, actually, if you're getting the same letters that I am, then I definitely haven't one. And sometimes that peer-to-peer support is just what somebody needs to feel that support and that they're not the only one in this sort of situation.
So if you need to get more information, of course, you can ring Consumer Line, or you can ring into us as well. If you can spot a scam, you can stop a scam. Lots of you are ringing in with examples. Somebody's saying, a man rang me about some kind of a lottery and he knew my name. So you need to be very, very careful with these kind of things. And you'll not be surprised to know that Norman in Bangor says, just don't go on the internet and then you'll be safe. I think probably, Norman, your attitude to most things and that is pretty good. Stay safe. You'll not be open to fraud. Better safe than sorry is exactly what Norman says. Trish Lyons of Belfast CAB is with me. And there's so many things changing. Every time you come in, we're saying something's changing. Widowed Parents Allowance is changing. Changes come in the 6th of April. And the Minister for Welfare Delivery says the old system was unfair. The new system is simple, uniform, easy to understand. So what's going to change from April?
Well, there's 3 bereavement benefits at the moment, and they are going to be changing it on the 6th of April. It's going to be a bereavement support payment. It is simplified. It is not taxable. It is not means tested, and now it's a shortened lifespan to what was compared before. But it basically it will be a more immediate cost associated with the death of a spouse or civil partner.
But it's going to be at different payments and for a shorter time.
Yes, there will be 2 separate payments. So there will be a one-off payment of £3,500 for anybody with children, and 18 monthly payments followed up by £350 per month. And for surviving partners with no dependent children, an initial payment of £2,500, followed up by 18 monthly payments of £100 per month.
And if you happen to be a couple and childless, it'll be a bigger lump sum and 18 months of payment and no age limit. Good or bad?
Well, because it doesn't affect other benefits or other payments, and it's non-taxable, we think it's good. So we do, because at the minute, widowed parents allowance would overlap with other benefits. So we're trying to get away. This is not a benefit; it is a payment, because there is people out there who, when their spouse dies, they don't realise they're entitled to this because they think it's benefits.
So you need to know what you need to know at the right time, and you can always ring CAB
certainly
if you've got questions on that, or indeed Advice NI or any of the other consumer help groups that are out there. But certainly it's a bad moment to need to know things like that, and you need to get advice. Thanks, Trish, for that. Adrian Huston, our tax expert. Adrian, we've got so many calls and emails about people saying this thing about this new way of doing your return this year, of getting a bank account details or passport. Sharon says you have to put all the information in before you can progress. Other people are saying, same thing happened to me as Colette. I've been using my ID and my passport, but this year I spent days trying to get in because I have an Irish passport. Now, the problem is we didn't get an answer on this from HMRC, so we're going to go back and ask them again after the programme or next week. But can you understand what might be going wrong for these people, Adrian?
Yes, I think they're maybe getting hooked up on the passport thing, because thankfully most people, Colette's parents are quite elderly, and didn't have some of the other identity documents that can help them get through this process.
But if you put in the passport first, does that then stop you going with the rest? Is that what maybe is happening?
Well, if your passport didn't get accepted, yes, but I would suggest, if you've got a British passport, go for it. If you haven't, try for something else that's British based, such as your driving licence, GB or Northern Ireland, or your mobile phone contract if you're on a contract, or a credit card. These are all things that you go through a list, and the government website will then tell you, right, we can see that you can only be verified by the following company. We're now directing you to it.
Well, if you did all this and you didn't get through the system because of all these new problems and you got fined, could you appeal? In fact, we'll ask HMRC that and find out for next week. But would you have a valid appeal, do you think, Adrian?
Yes, and I have had a brief conversation with Colette, and I've recommended that when she does get her penalty, and her parents will get their penalties, that she does appeal, and she's got a reasonable chance of success in getting that made to go away. But what you need to do is you need to keep a record of the times you've tried to do this. I mean, it's fantastic if you can even literally say the time and date you tried to log in, because the revenue may be able to see that.
Absolutely.
And
give
also,
all the
you don't give up. You don't give up and then in 6 weeks' time file the tax return. You have to persist.
I wonder, can you help Tom, who's emailed in? No, he texted in. My elderly parents passed away a couple of years ago, and I inherited their estate, and the value was about 200,000. I was not subject to inheritance tax, but am I now liable for capital gains tax on my inheritance?
Okay, yes, that's a simple one. His parents, when they died, they left him an estate that was below the level for inheritance tax, so therefore nothing due there. But the great thing, if there is a great thing about someone dying and leaving you an asset, then the great thing is that for capital gains tax purposes, effectively the clock gets reset. You get that asset at its current market value at the date that person died. So as far as capital gains tax is concerned, it's whatever the value was when they died. That's the starting point. Now, if he sells, for instance, a second home or a place in France or whatever for more than it was worth when he inherited it, he may have capital gains tax to pay. But if it hasn't changed much in value, he has no worries.
OK, Adrian, thank you for that. We'll get back to HMRC on that one. And thank you to everybody who's phoning in with all the different kinds of scams. There's another one, a message from PayPal. Someone's using my name to change my password. And my daughter got the same thing. You need to be so very careful before you give anybody any bank details. And remember, HMRC will never email you. The time now, 10:25, and you're listening to On Your Behalf.
Darling, I will be loving you till we're 70.
Great musician, Ed Sheeran, great song. And wouldn't it be wonderful to see him live in Dublin? He's going to come in April. Well, one young County Tyrone woman contacted Trading Standards when £2,191 was taken from her bank account. She thought she was buying 4 Ed Sheeran tickets for £400. Well, Bill Malloy at Trading Standards came in and he says it's vital to know what website you're using.
There are official websites and then there are these secondary ticketing websites. They should be giving you loads of information about the tickets, where you're sitting and the cost and booking fees. Unfortunately, when it comes to some of these secondary websites, these things always aren't as clear.
So you should know what you're going to pay, if there'll be a booking fee, what the VAT will be, the actual face value of the ticket, because sometimes you're paying more than the value of the ticket.
Well, certainly are. In this case, people were paying vast sums of money for tickets.
And then only realising afterwards that...
They only realise afterwards. All this information should be up front, but unfortunately it doesn't. There's a lot of pressure put on you whenever you go onto some of these websites. I've gone on myself, and the timer starts. It says you so many minutes to complete the purchase. There's lights flashing, almost bells ringing, and it tells you how many other people are interested in tickets, how many other people are on the site. So everything's pressurising you to get the job done.
And do it quickly.
And do it very quickly.
Is there any action Trading Standards can take against them?
Well, it's always very difficult because, once again, we're talking about cyberspace, and that's where these websites are working from. You don't know where in the world they're based or whatever. It's not so easy for us to knock on the door and say exactly what's going on here. Can you put things right?
You see, Norman's right, this online world. Well, things may improve in the next few weeks because the digital economy bill is going through the House of Lords and ticket touts will be banned from buying large numbers of tickets for a single event using automated technology. But in the meantime, Trading Standards says if you're using a smartphone, fees may not appear during the booking process. So take some simple steps to protect yourself. Make sure you're using an official website, a bit like looking for the HMRC one. Make sure it's official. And maybe consider using devices other than smartphones. But if you are using a secondary ticket website, the law says you must be given full and clear information about the event, the original face value of the ticket, information about restrictions, age limit, access, that sort of thing, and a contact email if there are any problems. And also, if you're doing it, think about how you're going to pay and if you might get extra protection using a credit card. If you have questions, of course, Consumer Line are there to help you. 0300 123 6262. And the Consumer Council has a great fact sheet on buying secondary tickets too, and you can follow the links on our website. Now, Trish Lyons of Belfast CAB has been with me throughout the programme this morning. Before we go, carers and credits. I've been told that carers, millions of carers, are missing out on national insurance credits which could boost their state pension. How do they claim these and which carers are eligible?
Carers credits for anyone caring for a disabled adult 20 more hours per week. The person you're claiming for must be in receipt of a certain benefit, or a healthcare professional must verify the needs and the care. It gives class 3 contributions towards your state pension or bereavement payments, and there's a simple claim form you can get from the Department for Communities or online.
So there's something there and it could help them when they come to that pension stage.
It's basically, if you're not eligible for carers allowance because it's an overlapping benefit, you then can claim the carers credit.
We talked earlier just about the change in the law, the ruling about cohabitation and their pensions. Would you suggest if you are in that situation you should put a claim in now?
Yes, I would, because this is going forward to the Supreme Court this year and because the Widow Parents Allowance is being done away with in April and being changed into